Hello, America. I'm your host of Humanity Matters and A Caring Nation. Some of you may know that I have been in a few horror movies in my lifetime. Many of you have probably watched horror movies during your lifetime. Many of you have probably watched thrillers. Many of you probably have been frightened by these movies, and you enjoyed being frightened to a point. Some of you may be afraid of slasher movies, and some of you may really get terrified by very good suspenseful horror movies and thrillers. But something much worse than all of the horror movies throughout the history of this planet, something much more frightening, something with much more inhumanity has occurred. And unfortunately, it is not a horror movie. It's not even fantasy. It is reality. And I'm gonna tell you what it is. But I would recommend, if you're watching this on television, or if you're watching this online, or some other means that you've downloaded it, I would strongly recommend that you sit down. In fact, you may want to pause this or stop it, use the facilities, then come back and view it. Because what I'm going to get into in a few seconds is going to be probably the most frightening information you've ever heard in your life. And I know that you think it's an over-exaggeration. And I'll grant that the way I'm presenting this is kind of boring, maybe. It's not in your face, it's not action-packed. Well, I could do the action-packed in your face real easy. But I want you to comprehend the seriousness of what I'm about to tell you. If you have ever seen a horror movie in your life, most of us look to the end of the movie when the killer or creature is exterminated or somehow brought to justice, or the person or persons are avenged. And therefore we look for a sort of a fulfilling or happy ending. Unfortunately, what I'm telling you in a few minutes will require you, yes, you, to provide the satisfaction and the happy ending. Because, you see, without you, there'll be no happy ending. That's right, I'm actually going to tell you something that requires each and every one of you to participate. Now, you're probably thinking, what could cause such a response? How much of a situation could it be? The gravity of it that would cause me to say that you must act. Well, I'm going to tell you now. Finally, after 1,000 years. July the 9th, 2008. 21 Democrats in the Senate, along with 47 Republicans in the Senate, okayed the newest amendment to the FISA law, also known as the Foreign Surveillance Act of 1978, also known as H.R. 6304. And in the House, every Republican voted in favor of this bill. And over 105 Democrats voted in favor of this bill. So when we talk about checks and balances, so far, the Democrats and the Republicans are complicit, my friends. But they voted for the Foreign Surveillance Act, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978, FISA. Now you might think, well, what the hell? Who cares? You better. You see, this bill has provisions in it that now allows every form of communication that you use in your life to be tapped if the government so chooses. Now, that's horrendous enough. Imagine everything you do on the computer, everything you do like through email, which is on the computer, but every call you make, whether it is a landline phone or a cell phone, every text you send, all of it can now be spied on. That's called surveillance. For those of you who think, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right, Al. It just doesn't sound right. It's the Foreign Surveillance Act. Yes, it is. But you see, the senators and the representatives aren't stupid. They know that most Americans would be in an uproar if they realized it affected 300 million Americans. So they bring these laws and they spin them so that they're spun in such a way it sounds like it's protecting you, when in reality it's not. But as I said, everything you do, every word you say, whether it is written, even through the United States mail, United States Postal Service, or email, or text, or call on the phone, or cell phone, everything you do and say can now, without a search warrant, be spied on. They could do surveillance on you. Now, I know that's horrendous enough. That should be making you upset right now. Because they have gotten rid of part of the First and Fourth Amendments of the United States. Something that your ancestors and your grandfathers have fought against, having totalitarian and a fascistic government. And for over 232 years, we had these protections. As of July 10th, 2008, you no longer have any right to privacy. And if that wasn't bad enough, if that wasn't the worst horror movie you've ever heard, the worst horrific thing you've ever heard, you see, my friends, this bill also allows the government to come into your house and arrest you, search your house, detain you without representation, without an attorney. They can just come into your house, do whatever the Hades they want. And they can do all this without, well, listen clearly, without a search warrant. You see, my friends, on July 10th, 2008, the fundamental core of the Constitution of the United States were superseded because Congress decided to cave in to the lobbyists. Congress decided to cave in to political entities that we won't name. But I think we all know who wanted what. But my friends, it is important to let you know that both the Republicans are guilty and the Democrats are guilty. How guilty, you may ask?